So yeah, this is based, to be honest, a lot on the conversations that I've had with you. Based on what you're saying about your successful petitions, what problems that you're facing. So this is sort of a list of 12 big questions and a lot of minor sub-questions that you can use to shape your talk about the strategy, whether it is, and I hope this will be useful both for people who already have ControlShift and just thinking about revamping the strategy, or for the people who are thinking about launching ControlShift and want to see which questions they could ask themselves before that they're doing, and sort of to see the to choose the path that they're gonna use here. So some of the questions is for the step for establishing the goals, some for defining the strings of work that is necessary to achieve it. And it is sort of a way, but also after each of the steps, you could go back and adjust the vision or adjust the goals or anything. So because I think this is sort of a very important process in making sure that things that you remember along the way that you feel that are important are reflected back in your overall vision. So 12 steps, and the first one is the reason. So I think this is the first main question that you need to ask. So why do you want to launch or keep the platform? Why do you need it? So this is like the focus question that you want to ask, and there are a lot of sub questions and sort of hints that you might get, but also that's not necessarily the exclusive list of questions. This is just to help you think about it a little bit. By the way, the list of the questions is also available in just a simple doc form, so it's easier for you to manipulate and do whatever with it. The next is vision. So I believe that for each of the big projects or each of the big pieces of work, you really need to have a vision of what you want to do with it. It's not the reason, but more like, what do you see this happening with in like 10 years? Even if your project, for example, is for 1 year or 2 years or whatever, but you don't envision closing it or you don't necessarily close it, then I think you just need to see in your mind what it is that you would like to change or strive or achieve with it. And that's essentially painting a picture of the future for the platform in your NRO and how it fits in the bigger strategy that your NRO has. So looking at the 3-year plan or any other big documents for your NRO is really useful in that process. And this is just an example, like a short paragraph of what it is that you see in the future for the platform. I'm not going to read it out, but in case you need an example, this is something that could look like. 3 is positioning. How are you branding the platform? That is essentially, is it a Greenpeace platform? How explicitly is it a Greenpeace platform? What types of campaigns do you allow on it thematically? Which type of campaigns do you actively encourage to happen? This is a very basic level of stuff, but this is also very much tied up with the vision that you have. And this is something that you need to explicitly decide from the start, or revise when you are thinking about, at least, is that positioning still right for you each given moment. Audience, who are the people using the platform? Also very much needed for all of us as an audience-centric organization. And this is a list of the questions that might help you to see. So is that for which groups, which people, and do audiences for the campaign creators and for petition signers differ? And if so, how do you manage that difference? Essentially, this is something that you might want to answer in that, and how do you present it to all of your audiences? Campaigns. This is how will the platform advance your campaigns and program plan? Again, super useful to look at your program plans, at your program composition, at your campaign composition, how your projects are doing. And in this part, essentially, you might want to answer how this platform can be used for Greenpeace campaigns, how, and if so, if it can be, how you can integrate it into your campaign planning. Is there a space that you peers can learn about ControlShift? What do they need to know about it for it to be included in the planning process? The partner organizations, if you're doing this sort of work, how you can incorporate, how you can advance this sort of work with the platform, and how do people who work with partnerships can learn about these possibilities? Again, the same with the volunteer groups, and as well as ControlShift being a source of inspiration for Greenpeace campaigns, how you can facilitate the process and how you can make it organic. Internal communication, very tied in with sort of some of the other questions, but I feel like this is something that you might need to think about separately. And that is essentially who needs to be on board with your plans and how you can do it. So for you to achieve your vision for the platform, which help do you require from Greenpeace colleagues? Who needs to be on board? What can the platform do for the people who need to be involved? How you can engage them, how you can interest them in this platform, and specifically how the platform can support your fundraising and digital teams, because that's usually a very it's more useful, more easy sell for if you can interest them in the platform as well. Platform setup, usually it is regarded as a very technical thing and it's not included in the strategy. But I also believe that every technical decision, or at least major technical decisions, should be made with a strategy in mind. So what can people do on your platform and why? And the why is the most important one here. So why is your platform set up in the way that it is set up and not any other way that is possible with your current technical possibilities? And that essentially is which features ControlShift offers are most suited for the goals that you have. What are the minimum and the maximum that you need to keep on your platform, and how it's tied up with your resources? Are these features enough for your audience? So that brings you back to the audience that you have. What does your audience need from a platform like this, and what do you need to offer for them to use it? And is it enough to let your audience build their campaigns? In the process of the listening, I gathered that, for example, it is some of the most successful campaigns that you've had were a campaign that is more than a petition, but something with an extra layer of whatever. So does your platform satisfy this need? Does your platform allow for this extra layer of campaign to happen? And if so, how? 8 is how you support your campaign creators, what you can do to help them. And this is a list of questions to help you define this. It is more about the tactics and the strategies, the tactics of how you achieve your goals rather than setting the goals. But I feel like this is a topic that you need to explore in the process of your strategy building to make sure that the paths and the goals that you make are relevant to a successful petition. Successful campaigns, what you can do to make sure you have quality petitions. Again, this is heavily influenced, this question is heavily influenced by the talks that we've had with the community. So the things that make your campaign successful is something that you could potentially ask yourself. So what can you do to make sure you and your petition starters choose the right targets? What can you do to make sure you pick the right time for the petitions, how you can be more proactive, how you can be in the know on the latest activist trends, what you can do to make sure you build relationships with different activist groups, and what you can do to ensure your platform is technically set up to help people make good petitions. Promoting your platform, so how will the right people know about it? Also, one of the cornerstones of the successful platform is making sure that people are actually aware of it. Some of the questions that might help you think about this. And that's up to you to incorporate it in the strategy or not. Digital and fundraising use, again, more specific question about what we already discussed a little bit. So are you going to do it? Are you going to let your digital and fundraising team use it? Are they interested in it? And if yes, how to do it right? Specifically, there are a few things that are a concern for the people who are working with the communities. Essentially, are you planning to use the ControlShift for the list building? Because this is usually the selling point for a lot of the NROs. Are you planning to fundraise it on the petition starters? How you can make sure that your partners are aware of your intentions and it's not to interfere in your relationship? Is your audience warm enough for fundraising? And legally speaking, which procedures do you need to establish in order to do it right? Mid and short-term goals. That usually comes like right in the beginning, right? So you set a vision and then you set a mid and short-term goals. I usually prefer to do it in sort of that position. So you have a vision, you think about like the strings of work that potentially can make your work successful, and then having all of this information in your head, you define your mid and short-term goals based on the vision and the potential strings of work that might lead you to a different pathways. So what do you make a priority and what to do first? These are the main questions, because of course, if you were thinking about all of these things or some of the things, because of course, it's not necessary to go through all of the list of the questions. This is just I was trying to think of everything that you might find useful, but it's not necessarily the case for you. So what out of all of this good things that you might do with the platform, what to make a priority? And these are the guiding questions that I would use. So looking at the vision, your audience and your campaign ambition for the platform, what should you achieve in the next 2 to 3 years that would bring you to achieving your long-term vision in 5 or 10 years for whatever time that you're setting it. And the short-term goals is looking at your midterm goals. What would you start with? What can you do in order to achieve your midterm goals? And what can you realistically achieve in 1 year? As a result of all of this, so as a result of this conversation that you're having, you should have these reflections in a straightforward paper. So I encourage you to be as specific and use the language as straightforward as possible, because that really needs to be a paper that helps you rather than messes you up. Because I know from experience with my own NRO that we like to write strategies or like papers that are very much like filled with language and like big sentences and whatever. But that is for, I don't know why people are doing that, maybe to sound smarter or to make sure that nobody understands and therefore it gets approved. But ideally, the strategy that you're about to get is a straightforward paper that helps you to set your priorities. So it might look as an overview of basic truths about your ControlShift platform. So like your setup, what it is about, a vision, a set of mid and short-term goals, and a few priority lines of work that you need to do or to achieve for each of the individual goals. So it's very important to have like a goal and sort of a short idea how you're going to achieve it. Very much not in detail, not whatever, but just how you say it, theory of change, if you will. And ideally, a strategy would help you prioritize. That's, I think, the main thing that strategy does. In the future, while looking at any suggested piece of work that you think of or your colleagues bring to you or whatever, you should be able to look at this piece of work and say, yes, it works for achieving the goals that we defined, or no, it doesn't work, and therefore we're not doing that, or we're not using that, or whatever. That's the most important thing for you, because that makes your day-to-day choices much easier in that way. So the whole process might take some time to think. Like all of this is definitely not a 1 or 2 hour think process, right? So this is a this is important to remember, and that's fine. I believe that it is worth investing time in, because that makes your daily work necessary. I know easier, because that it has been in my experience, and that really helps you focus and makes your decisions easier later on. For each of the questions, of course, you can try several ways of discussing it. And if you have troubles of arranging or thinking of how you can discuss it with your team members, you can always reach out, because there is some knowledge around that. You can reassess. I'm not sure I spelled that correctly. I'm going to check that. You can reassess and reevaluate your strategy and goals regularly. So like once a year is nice. So even looking at your vision once a year and looking, seeing if that's still the case for you, just saying yes, it's still the case is still good. And so I told you that like this is a list of ideas, right? A list of questions, a menu that you can pick from and to build your process. But I would strongly suggest don't skip the vision and the audience parts, specifically because that informs a lot of your decisions and a lot of your goals later, ideally. So take some time to think about it, even if it feels, I know as a practitioner, sometimes it feels unnecessary or taking too much time or space or whatever. But that really might help you in along the way. And of course, if you have any problems or would like us to give you feedback, review, or help you with the process, please reach out to us. And we're going to help you in any way that it would be possible. Thank you for your attention. That is it for the questions.